Welcome in live to another Rock Boys football podcast. Last episode, we were ranking our top 10 coaches in college football. This episode, we'll be back to our conference previews. This week, we're doing the Big Ten. And so many of you guys know Ohio State has kind of dominated the Big Ten. Dylan and I think there are some teams to look at who could potentially push Ohio State, and some dark horses to maybe win the conference too. As usual, like and subscribe to YouTube, but also our podcast. We're now on Apple Podcasts for many of you guys who are on YouTube with us. So check that out. Then you don't have to stare at our ugly mugs the whole time. But nonetheless, we thank you guys for listening on any platform. All right. So to open up our discussion of the Big Ten, we are going to start with the favorites, the team that's won it for the last couple years, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Dill, what do you think about them?
I actually am not a huge fan of Ohio State coming into this year. I mean, I do think they're by far the favorites in the Big Ten. Having said that, aside from the wide receiver position, I do not love that team. I think they're losing basically everybody who is any good on defense. And I don't know that they're going to be able to replace them. And the people who are coming back, especially in the secondary, really struggled last year. So I'm not sure we're going to see a particularly good defensive team this year. And maybe Zach Harrison can step up and give them some firepower on the D line, but you're replacing three pros. So I don't know. I'm not in love with Ohio State this year, but I mean, the Big Ten, they're still the cream of the crop, so they should still win this conference. But
yeah, I actually am a little bit higher on Ohio State. I recognize that their defense might not be as good as it was last year. They obviously lose John Cooper.
But it wasn't good last year.
It was not good last year. You're right. It was bad.
So it's going to be worse.
I would say it is going to be worse. I do think, unless you can get some serious production out of Zach Harrison. I think the Buckeyes are so used to having such a dominant edge.
Yeah.
The Bosa brothers, then you had Chase Young. They just didn't really have that. I mean, Jonathan Cooper was okay. I think he had 3.5 sacks in the 7 games they played, so it wasn't nothing off the charts. Zach Harrison has the athleticism to be that guy. I'm not convinced that he is. We didn't really get to see much of him throughout his career, and so we'll see what he can do for them. They also have Haskell Garrett, who I believe was a first-team Walter Camp All-American.
He can play.
He's a
but
ball
they're
player
still
for
replacing guys on that defensive line. So
what I worry about is their back end stunk last year, and now they're going to lose all 4 of their linebackers in Baron Browning, Pete Warner, Tuck Worland, and Hilliard, I believe, all gone. So they're replacing 4 linebackers who pretty much were their starters all of last year, and many of those guys have been starting for a couple of years now. So their defense, I'm not projecting them to be that good. That being said, their offense is gross. I mean, the talent they have on offense is just overwhelming. They just need C.J. Stroud, who I presume is going to be the starter there. They just need him to be okay. I mean, if you're just an average quarterback who can get the ball to your playmakers accurately, this offense is going to cook. It's going to be a top 5 offense.
The problem is all they have is wideouts, and their wideouts are phenomenal. Probably the best you've ever seen. And they do have 2 good tackles, but that interior is brutal. And they're replacing 3 guys. That Harry Miller played a couple games at center. He was really struggled. And now you're going to hope you can patchwork it in. And on an interior that wasn't good enough last year, quite frankly. It wasn't a great unit.
What I wrote in my write-up on this team was you're returning the 2 most important positions on this offensive line, the tackles. I mean, Nicholas Petit-Frere is solid. He's a solid right tackle. And then Thayer Munford, he's an All-American. He might be a first-team All-American this year, first-round draft pick next year. And so I think it's not that hard to put guys in the interior and just kind of patch it up. I agree it wasn't the best unit.
You would have thought that last year, but there was chaos in that interior line. And it really, especially when that starting center was out who just got drafted, I'm blanking on his name, but he was the anchor. And when Josh Myers didn't play, they really struggled. So I don't know. I think as good as they are skill-wise, I think Master Teague's a very weak running back for what you'd expect Ohio State to put out.
Yep, I agree.
So I don't know. They have three or at least two who have proven to be phenomenal, and probably those young guys are also really high recruits and super talented, like Julian Fleming and Agabuka. But I don't know.
And
I
then you
really
got
like
Jackson Smith, Nigba too. Who the
yeah,
wide
Smith and
receiver
Jigba.
room
He's good.
is so
It's
good.
great, but that doesn't carry teams, and I do
Carried
have
Florida
major
last year.
questions about
Carried Florida
how they're
last
going
year.
to be able to run
Carried
the
Florida
football.
last year. Your favorite team. It carried them.
Yeah, but like they also did have like you're acting like they didn't have a quarterback who was going to be a draft pick
Kyle
going into
Trask,
that year.
he's not that good.
He was he's a draft pick though. He's a professional. We don't know anything about CJ Stroud really.
We don't. Besides that, he's a top 50 nationally recruit.
I don't think they're going to run the football very well, and I don't know when you're one dimensional and you have a starter who has no experience.
One dimensional in the pass game is different though.
They're going to be the best team in the Big Ten,
By
but
far.
I don't see them as a particularly great chance of really competing at the national level this year.
If CJ Stroud is good, if he's in 75% of what Justin Fields was, they'll win the Big Ten and make the playoffs. Do I think they can compete with a Bama, a Georgia, a Clemson this year? Maybe not.
That's all I'm kind of saying. I'm not saying they're bad, but I don't think I'm not 100% sure they're a lock for the Big Ten, and I don't know. I really don't think it's a great unit they have coming back. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I don't love what they have coming back personally.
I don't like what they have coming back on the defense. I think their offense is freaking loaded. It's so good. As a Michigan fan, it's just like, especially like thinking about how we match up with them, our corners are just absolute. At least they were horrible last year. I don't see how we deal with them this year, but we'll see. There's obviously a full fall before they play. So with that being said, why don't we move over to Michigan? They've obviously struggled last year, but you kind of have to talk about them when you're talking about the Big Ten. You have to talk about it when they're playing. When you're talking about Ohio State, what do you think projecting? How do you think they'll be next year?
Realistically, they're going to be probably the second most talented team coming back. They have recruited as well as anyone else besides Ohio State, and they're going to return a fair amount of that team and some really important players. So I don't know. I love what they have coming back at the linebacker position personally, because I really am a fan of Mike Barrett. Yeah, big fan. He played amazing last year. He's that new breed of linebacker.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Our secondary can't be worse, and I think part of that was just inept coaching last year. I really didn't think Don Brown gave him a good chance. So I don't know.
Sorry.
No, go.
What was frustrating as a Michigan fan watching them last year was game after game, drive after drive, you saw those corners struggle when they're put on islands. And Don Brown didn't change a freaking thing the whole year. He continued to put these guys on islands.
They could be good. They could be decent zone guys. They're like bigger,
longer. Yep.
They're not great playing the ball man to man.
That's just not Don Brown's defense.
They're pretty athletic and
they're long.
I don't know. You would think you got to put them in zone at some point, because we just couldn't cover people. Too many penalties. And now we're going to have a new defensive coordinator. Hopefully he just coaches to the personnel. Like, you can't live and die at playing man coverage with one high safety and just do it every time, even when you're just getting exposed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest problem, I have to just make sure my laptop's plugged in here. I think the biggest problem was one, their ball skills stunk. Like, whenever the ball was in the air, they weren't the one winning it. It's like you can't just play the same. We played the same defense for 4 years straight, just like man coverage. We'd send pressure and leave our corners out there on islands and send extra guys. And it's just like when teams know you're going to do that, you saw us get burned time after time with crossing routes, with pick routes. And it was just frustrating. Don Brown's a very good defensive-minded coach. I think he just ran his course in Michigan and Ann Arbor. So I look forward to his next stop down. He's down in Arizona now. So I think on the defensive side of the ball, Michigan should be great. So we just talked about their secondary. They have two really good safeties, by the way, Andrew Hawkins and Dak. So those guys are both going to be really good.
Brad Hawkins, but yeah.
Yep, sorry. Brad Hawkins. The cornerbacks, I hope just get better. I hope we can kind of play to their strengths more, throw them in some more zones. I'm excited to see Andre Seldon. I've heard a lot of good things about him. He kind of battled with COVID. And then the linebackers are good. Watching film again, Josh Ross just frustrates me a little bit.
But he doesn't need to be the athlete this year. I mean, he can be the guy in the middle. Like, we have two other guys who I don't know who is going to start on the other linebacker spot. I'm guessing it's the on Aubrey Solomon. I think he's going to be the guy. But that's Michael Barrett and him are two guys who are really elite athletes for the linebacker position. So I don't know I think if you can put two really athletic guys next to him and let him play the middle, because he's a solid box. Like, he doesn't make mistakes, and he's not like we had some issues with Cam McGrone just making mistakes and not.
He's kind of an airhead.
I mean, you want Josh Ross leading your defense. He does do everything right, albeit he's not a great athlete. So I'm excited. I mean, I don't mind the unit, and of course, I think our defensive line is going to be very good with Hutchinson and Hinton, who I think are both high potential draft picks, especially Hutchinson. So I'm excited for the defense. I'm excited for a new regime.
That's what I said in the write up. We don't even know what that defense is really going to look like. Is he going to is he going to like keep the 4-3, kind of what we played with Don Brown and what the players are used to? Or are you going to throw him into like a 3-4 where kind of Mike McDonald's coming from Baltimore? That's kind of what they played. Are we going to see? I just wouldn't mind seeing just some more variety. I mean, like when I was reading about the 3-4, as much as we like to kind of bag on the 3-4, only having 3 down linemen, like a lot of times you rush that fourth guy. And the best part about it is you're disguising where he's coming from. So you have 4 linebackers, which one's going to come? The offense needs to figure out which one's going to come, how are they going to slide protections. So, like, I don't mind that. I feel like our defense was just too simple the last couple of years. Just, like, man coverage, bring extra guys.
Yeah, we're going to blitz and play. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely fair.
So I'm excited to see. Yeah, me too.
I just think Don Brown, like, I don't know, he wasn't getting it done. I think it was time to change. I think it was time for Zordich, the secondary guy, to be gone. So
on the offensive side of the ball, moving on, I think we're going to see Cade McNamara out there we have the 5-star J.J. McCarthy, who I think is going to push Cade McNamara, but I would be surprised to see J.J. McCarthy trotted out there week 1. And then Alan Bowman, I don't think is going to play. I mean, I think it's good test, but like I was very weird when he came. So Alan Bowman, for you guys who don't know, transferred from Texas Tech. He was a starter there. Tyler Shaw came into Texas Tech, so he transferred out. Came to Michigan, where he thinks he might start. I don't see him starting.
Yeah, I don't see him as a factor.
And so I think it's between JJ and Cade. I think they'll go with Cade. Cade's all right. I kind of call him like a gamer. He just gets what needs to be done. He's a good leader. And we don't need, again, we have so much talent around him. We don't need him to be a Heisman Trophy winner. But we do need him, unlike what Joe Milton could do, we need him to throw the ball on time accurately where he's supposed to go with it and get the ball into our playmaker's hands. And Joe Milton kind of struggled to do that. Then Cade McNamara
just can't turn the ball over like what Joe Milton was doing.
He missed so many easy throws. Like, it's just, you can't be that erratic at the quarterback position, especially when you don't need to do it all. So I think Cade will be solid for us. We have a staple of wide receivers. I mean, just to list a few,
Ronnie Bell. That's for sure.
Ronnie Bell is the veteran of the group. He's just kind of a 7-11 guy. He's always open. He's always making the plays. But then we have some young guys. AJ Henning's a flyer. Roman Wilson's a flyer, but he's also long. He runs good routes. He has good hands. He actually caught the ball really well contested his true freshman year. And then we have a big body in Cornelius Johnson on the outside, plus that new kid who just transferred in from Jackson State. So I like the combinations we have. We need the quarterback to get him the ball. And then at the offensive line position, we obviously lose Jalen Mayfield. Sorry, I'm kind of flying through it. There's a lot of teams we got to get through in the Big Ten because realistically, the Big Ten there's 6 teams that are really, really solid, if not more. So there's a lot of teams we got to get through. But yeah, the offensive line were kind of scrambling around. Not scrambling around, but
it's not scrambling because there's a stable of guys coming back.
that's
It's
what I'm
very
saying.
hard to tell what's going
to happen. I think Ryan Hayes is a lock to be the left tackle. I think he could be an NFL prospect, realistically. He's long, good body, good athlete. We just haven't really seen him much. I think he's at left, and then me and Dylan are conflicted on who we think's gonna play right. It's either Carson Barnhart or Andrew Stuber. But basically,
I don't even know that it's relegated to those two. I think it could be.
I would say those guys are the lead guys. I'd be surprised to see someone else.
But
yeah, I mean,
realistically,
so it's like here are like the guys who could start: Carson Barnhart, Stuber. They'll probably both start, whether that be at right tackle or inside. Then you have guys like Nolan Rumler, Trevor Keegan, Andrew Vistardis, Chuck Filiaga, and Zach Zinter. I think those are like kind of the guys. So there's like 8 guys who are just like floating around. So we have good depth. Like I think that's not going to be the problem. We just have to figure out how to take these 8 guys and say what are the best 5? What's the best 5?
Because last year they didn't play well enough as a group.
No.
Jalen Mayfield was really the only guy you could count on game in, game out to be.
And we were moving guys around. It was just kind of chaos. COVID was just, or Michigan last year is kind of just chaos in general.
Honestly, the whole Big Ten, because you could say the same about Penn State, Wisco.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, those two were really gutted by it, and then.
So, but basically, what you need to a vast overview for many who might not be as familiar with the Michigan program as us. They've recruited really well in the classes of like 2018, 2019. So these are the years you kind of reap those rewards of those guys. They might not be impact players as true freshmen in 2020 and 2019, but they're older now. They're more experienced. They've had starts under the belt. So now you look to kind of capitalize. And just to touch on the running backs, there's 3 running backs who are going to be really good. Hassan Haskins probably going to be the bell cow, and then Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are going to be sprinkled in there. Donovan Edwards is a true freshman who's a top 100 recruit. He's a stud. Blake Corum looked really good last year, and then Hassan Haskins is probably going to be kind of the starter there.
I don't know. I think Corum's going to take it, but I think we're in good shape either way.
Yeah, all 3. I want all 3 of those guys to get touches because I think they're all really good. I don't want to see it kind of pigeonholed to one team. But that's Michigan for you. I think the next team we should talk about is Wisconsin. I think they're probably one of the better teams. Dill, I want to ask you to lead with us because I know you've watched a lot of film on them. You like that team a lot. What do you think about the Wisconsin Badgers?
I love the Badgers this year. I think last year you can pretty much wash out because they never could get right after COVID struck them quite heavily in the second game or something. And their quarterback, Mertz,
was so disappointing.
Got it, and he was out for weeks. And other players on the team were out for weeks. But, when you look at that Wisconsin team, they're returning a fair amount on defense, especially at the linebacker spot where they're getting Sanborn and Chanel back, who are both stars in my opinion. Sanborn I love as a college linebacker. He's just dominant, and
he's as smart as they go.
You're getting everyone back in the secondary besides Wild Goose, and that's a decent defensive unit last year. So I expect them.
And they always play good defense. They always play solid defense. Wisconsin, you can count on them to play good defense and run the football, and that's going to win you a lot of games in the Big Ten. It's going to win you a lot of games, period. And that's why we've seen them be so consistent. They develop a strong offensive line, which they'll have again this year. They always seem to have just a stud running back, whether it be John Taylor. Now it's Jalen Berger, who I love.
The difference is they might be able to throw the ball with a little bit more excitement.
I agree.
Because they have Danny Davis and Kendrick Pryor both coming back. I love Danny Davis personally. I think he's really a solid player. And Graham Mertz actually has talent. When can you say that about Ohio or Wisconsin quarterbacks? They're always kind of snooze fest besides Russell Wilson. So now you're going to see a guy who's a pretty good athlete and who has very legitimate arm talent. And
the only problem with Graham Mertz is I just wish he didn't have that hiccup with the COVID. Because he looked so good.
That's not a problem with him. It's just,
but he didn't play. No, but I'm saying it kind of derailed the season a little bit. you look at his
Of course,
stats
it
when he came
derailed the
back,
season, but it's irrelevant.
it wasn't great. No, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, I wish we got to see him play a higher level of football the whole year. It just seemed like after that happened, he played all right against a crummy Michigan team, and then he just wasn't great the rest of the way. Albeit I believe they played like Iowa, Northwestern, and Indiana, I want to say. So those are all some like really good defenses. But he just didn't look as good as when he played Illinois, when he went 20 of 21 for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So
yeah, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has. Paul Chryst is obviously as steady as it comes as a coach. He's just, he's going to put a decent team out that doesn't make mistakes and plays hard and does everything right. They're not going to do Florida-like things from what Florida was doing last year when they were losing games. So I actually do think they're going to be possibly give Ohio State a very real run at that division. Because
do you think they win the Big Ten West?
Oh yeah, I don't see anyone who's going to check because I mean, who's going to be number 2 in that? Northwestern?
I think it'd be. I'd have Iowa.
I don't even like Iowa.
Betting odds, it's Wisconsin plus 150, Iowa plus 200, Minnesota plus 650, Nebraska plus 650, which is such a boost. That team sucks. And then Northwestern plus 700.
Treating them like they suck as they do. So
you telling me Nebraska is better than Northwestern? I don't buy that.
Oh, this year they might. Dude, Northwestern lost everybody.
They lost everybody. They got shelled.
They lost the defensive coordinator, and they don't recruit well enough to replace that much. So
yeah.
I actually do think Northwestern's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally don't love Iowa. I'd be interested to hear your take on why you think they're going to be good because they did finish the year good last year, but they're kind of the same as they always are. They never really hang with Wisconsin.
I don't think they'll be that good this year, actually. I was having a Twitter discussion with somebody talking about Kirk Ferentz and whether he's kind of just run his course or reached his ceiling, and we kind of both agreed that he has. Like, it's kind of that program.
Problem is like he's like Mike D'Antonio. Like, you just can't. You're not going to replace anyone at Iowa do a better job because Iowa's a horrific place to be in terms of running a program.
Yeah, it's tough. Let's finish up talking about Wisconsin because there's one guy I felt like we just need to add is Jake Ferguson at the tight end spot. I think he's one of the better tight ends in the game. I think he fits that Wisconsin offense, and I think he'll be valuable. He can catch the ball. He blocks well, so you can leak him out. I think I guess to finalize what we think about Wisconsin is they'll have a good defense as usual, but they won't just be so like a one-trick pony on offense.
They have a very real shot of being very
explosive.
Able like to an throw explosive the ball team. Down the field.
When have we called Wisconsin an explosive team through the year? What, since Russell Wilson? I mean, we haven't. So this year they could be. I think they found kind of a gem with Graham Mertz. So I think that's 3. I think I'd have Wisconsin 3 to win probably 2 to win the Big Ten.
I have them over Michigan.
Yeah, they'll be playing in that game. So
if you bring us head to head and you give me even money, I wouldn't bet it because I'm a Michigan guy, but it would. If I wasn't, I would. I do think in an even head-up game, right now I have to say Wisconsin. I mean, they beat the wheels off us last year, so I don't know. You better think Michigan made some big strides, which I think they probably did, but I don't know. Wisconsin might be even better. So.
Wisconsin's a good team, and you can just count on them being super consistent and not really playing below their level. So
being the opposite of Michigan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or we always play down.
Let's move on to one of the more exciting teams in college football right now, and that's probably Indiana, the Indiana Hoosiers. I mean, Matt Campbell's up there with coaches I like, and Tom Allen's right there. Like, they got that it factor. The players.
Tom Allen feels like a shooting star. Like, he'll
burn
come
out
up
a little
really
bit,
fast, and then he will be
maybe. But he's recruiting really well. If you look at those classes, he's starting to, guys are like, I want to go to freaking Indiana and play ball for that dude, and I don't blame them. If I was a beast at football in high school, I want to go play for Indiana. I want to go play for him, Leo. Love you.
They're becoming a little bit like Kentucky in my mind, where like now
no, they're way better than Kentucky.
If you're right on the cusp of being like a really good high school player, but you're not exactly Bama ready, you could end up at Indiana. I don't think they're much better than Kentucky, but whatever. I mean, we'll see. I don't know when we'll ever see that. But
So you want to talk about what Indiana rides on? It's Michael Penix Jr. I mean, this guy, Michael Penix Jr., he couldn't be one of the more electrifying players in college football if he's healthy and if he's consistent. So he's poised to come back, and he'll have weapons around him. They just got grad transfer Stephen Carr from USC, who was a former 5-star, runs the ball really, really well. Kind of brings a different dynamic than what Stevie Scott did last year.
Problem is you're probably getting that as like a wash, so they're just refilling. They're not getting better at running back.
I think what I'd say is
Carr didn't do enough to like make me think he's better than Stevie Scott.
I guess I can't ride that.
He could barely get the carries at USC. So
yeah, but I do think he offers a little bit of that. He's a little bit more explosive, a little bit better in the open field. Stevie Scott's more of a bulldozer. I love Stevie. He's a Western New York guy, so the Rock Boys, obviously from Rochester, we like Stevie Scott. But so yeah, they're not really getting worse at running back, and then they get guys around Penix Jr. who are going to be very solid. Obviously,
they're going to return his two weapons in Freifogel in the tight end, Peyton Hendershot.
Yeah.
Those are the guys he liked last year. So
I love Peyton Hendershot. I was a little bit surprised he didn't go last year. I think that's just an example of like those guys just want to stick around and build that program in Indiana. But he's a very good athlete as a tight end. And Ty Freifogel, I don't necessarily like him as an NFL guy because I think it's
for real.
Yeah, I think he's relying on the jump ball too much and not separation, which I tend to grade wide receivers who get separation higher than guys who rely on catching over guys because it's not going to happen as much on the pro level. That being said, if you're talking about college guys, like he was one of the better receivers in the Big Ten. I love his game. He just goes up and makes big plays, big catches. He's really hard to bring down after the catch. What do you have his height? I'm going to look up his measurements right now. I just feel like
definitely don't offhand have it. He was a bigger body, wide out, but I think he's a better athlete than you're giving him credit for. I'm a big fan of Ty Freifogel, so I do think they're going to be a good offense. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on Michael Penix yet. I mean, he's kind of an electric guy, but he really doesn't throw the ball at a high enough level to make me love him. So.
I think he can. I think he's similar to someone like what we talked about. You're probably gonna hate me for this, but like Matt Corral, like he has the capabilities to make throws and move with his feet.
I don't think he's nearly at Matt Corral's throwing level, but he might be. I mean, it's just kind of a Tim Tebow looking left-handed.
Oh, it's ugly. Yeah, it's ugly. Well, every left-hander, every quarterback who throws with their left hand.
That's true. There's just something about it.
It's just something about it. I agree.
But I don't know. It's not like he came. He doesn't have a particularly big arm at all. I don't think he's a great thrower. So I'm not in love with I don't think he's a Heisman level guy by any means. And I think they're kind of going to need him to play at a Heisman level if they want to have a sniff at Ohio State or even Wisconsin, quite frankly, for me. I know they beat him last year, but that seemed like a year everything went right for Indiana, and I don't see them replicating that. But
the problem is the Big Ten East is just so loaded. Like
you're telling me
State,
they're going to go
Michigan,
beat Michigan,
Indiana, Michigan State. Well, Michigan State's not very good this year, but Penn State. Like it's a grinder. And we're not really going to talk about them too much because we don't have the time. Rutgers is going to be good. We're gonna talk about Rutgers when it gets closer to betting season because they're going to be one of those teams that the sports books disrespect. They're like, Rutgers did the doormat of the Big Ten. They are going to win games in the Big Ten this year. They are going to be very competitive in the Big Ten. Me and Dale have crunched the film on this one. This is going to be a breadwinner for the Rock Boys and their followers come the fall. It's gonna, breadwinner, is that the right term? Like just the cash cow. Like we're gonna be riding Rutgers all freaking.
I don't mind that. Like when they go play a Maryland type team, like
it's gonna be even money. I'm gonna put my house on it.
There might be a chance for them.
JK responsibly.
But yeah, no, definitely.
Let me say one more thing about Indiana.
Indiana, not a good enough defense for me. I think they were decent last year. I don't see them exactly being ready to rock and roll. I mean, they weren't shutting people down by any means. So, yeah, we'll see. But I'm not in love with Indiana. I'm getting a little bit of PJ Fleck year one vibes, and then kind of regressing back.
Can you flip to Indiana? Can you get their stats up?
What stats?
Micah McFadden. How many tackles did he rack up in those 7 games they played? We have to find that.
It was 58.
I love Micah McFadden though. He's
I mean,
in a shortened season, bro. That's 10 a game. How many games did they play last year?
10 a game, dude. That's horrible.
Didn't they play 6 or 7
played
games?
8.
Micah McFadden is still gonna be stud. The times I've watched Indiana closely, Micah McFadden is a very, very. He's gonna be an All-American linebacker, if not first team,
All-American.
He's really, really good. I think he's one of the better players in the country at the linebacker position. You'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think, but I agree their defense needs to sharpen up, tighten up. I mean, they were not bad, but
I mean, I get it's Ohio State, but they couldn't even.
No,
aside from
that's not fair.
Bad picks, they were not close to those wide receivers at any moment. And
but still, that's the 2 best receivers in the country.
Yeah, but you're talking about them like they're gonna go beat Michigan, Penn State, and like that. Yeah, you are. You're saying like they're gonna beat what they were last year. That means they're gonna have to go compete with the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. I don't see them doing that this year. I don't think they have the talent. I think last year everything went right for them, and a lot of things went wrong for a lot of other teams.
And that is the fairest thing you've said in a while. Just kidding, not a while. But it just did seem like everything went well for that Indiana football team last year.
I'm getting major Minnesota vibes from 2019.
Ooh, I don't think
where
so.
They Tom just Allen everything was going. He's the exact same person.
I was gonna say, but Allen and PJ Fleck are pretty much carbon copies of each other.
They're just rowed the boat like
you might not be wrong.
Wood, all that nonsense. Yeah. So I don't know. You're never gonna convince me that these teams come out of the clouds and be good. I mean, you might get a flash in the pan, but Indiana football is Indiana football for me. They're recruiting a little better, but they're really not up with Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and the like. So, I see some big regression, big opportunity to fade them. Yeah, it's just what I see. I don't think they're that good.
I don't know if I'm fading them until I see. The problem is they start off with some banger games. If I recall, I think they open up with Iowa. You got their schedule right by
Iowa, Idaho, Cincinnati. Like you think they're going to beat Cincinnati?
No, Cincinnati. What? You're the one who's like, oh, you hate Cincinnati.
No, I don't think they're a playoff team. Fair, but I don't hate them. They're gonna beat. Cincinnati. Well, they're gonna give Indiana a game. Certainly. I'm kind of interested to see what that line will do.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about. So we got through. I think the next one on the list has to be Penn State. That's probably going to be the last team we talk about in depth.
I actually really don't care for Penn State this year. I think they're going to really struggle again.
What makes?
Coming off they've recruited well, fair, but they're going to have to return Clifford. He was horrible last year.
Yeah, Will Levis transferred out, so they don't have that safety net.
Yeah. And I think the biggest issue is they basically lost everyone on that defensive line, including 2 pros at defensive end, which is almost impossible to replace. So they're going to I actually think that secondary is going to be pretty good. They're going to return basically everybody, and that Tariq Castro-Fields can really play. So I actually think they might have a good secondary, but God, that defensive line is going to be horrific. And I
had a lot of guys leave on that defense line.
I think their offense might be really bad too. I mean, it wasn't good enough last year, and I really am not a Clifford guy. So I don't know. I don't see a great year this year for Penn State, but
I think there'll be maybe not like a top year for Penn State that they're used to having, like a good Penn State year. Like we're gonna find out pretty quick. So I'm pretty sure they play Auburn like third game of the season. They
start with Wisco.
So that'll be a great game. Yeah. Is that home or away? Is that in Beaver or Camp Randall?
It's at Wisco.
Ooh, that sucks. If Wisco was going into Beaver Stadium, I would hammer Wisco. They would give us like 6 points. I
wonder what they set that line. Well, it might be out by now, but
I do think Jahan Dotson.
How do you think Penn State's going to be great? I just don't see what they're going to have.
I mean, they have some talent like Noah Cain and Devin Ford are good running backs. Sean Clifford stinks.
Noah Cain's good, but he's not good enough.
He's not. That's fair. He's not like a.
He's just kind of like a Penn State running back.
They got like Rasheed Walker, who's kind of a big body maul. He's very good tackle, probably be a first round pick. And then Jahan Dotson is one of the more underrated players in football. I love watching his highlights are so fun to watch. He's electric.
He can really catch the ball, and he's a good athlete. So
yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't see Penn State. I'm trying to think. It's so the Big Ten is so tough because it's so hard to evaluate those teams from last year because the SEC didn't really feel the impact of COVID as much because they were pretty much always going to play football, never really canceled the season. The games weren't, they had a few games that got canceled, but those were like the South Carolina versus Tennessee.
But they were just reschedules. There wasn't so much full cancellation.
Yeah, they started canceling some of the bad teams, but like the Big Ten, it just got ravished. Like, especially for like a Michigan, Penn State, the teams that kind of just struggled.
And so many guys weren't playing. I mean, the opt-outs were
a lot of opt-outs in the Big Ten because they canceled the season. They canceled the season until like September. So it's like guys we didn't want to come back. It was just a weird season. It's really hard to evaluate like last year, and then so it's hard to project into 2021.
I agree. The problem is you kind of know their weakness will be Sean Clifford, and he's
got to stop turning.
I really don't like him. So
yeah.
I don't see them having a good year. I think they have to, when you lose two defensive ends like they're doing, and then you're not getting back a quarterback who's capable, not returning enough up front in a running game that's going to be particularly capable in its own right. So I don't love Penn State this year, but
Penn State seems to be a little bit overvalued based on the name.
They do recruit well, so it's tough. They could bring in some guys who can play.
But you see, in my opinion, in my couple of years of experience, kind of looking at sports books, looking at the college football landscape from a betting standpoint, names of teams carry some. Like Michigan was a 7-point favorite against Indiana last year, and that's simply like you would be an idiot if you looked at Michigan play, you looked at Indiana play Penn State, and then you looked at Michigan play Michigan State. And it said, I'm going with Michigan over Indiana. No way. And then to give him 7 points on the road was absolutely nuts. But, the sportsbooks just value the names sometimes. I think Penn State's probably one of those examples. I don't think they're that great of a team this year. I think they have some good players, so we'll see.
It's not like a good construction. It's they have some talent, but their construction's kind of weak.
All right, so we talked about kind of the front runners: Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana. Are there any other teams? I think Iowa's. The problem with Iowa is I see them pretty similar to Wisconsin's. They're just.
See, that's mad disrespectful to Wisconsin. Wisconsin.
Yeah, but Wisconsin does the same thing, just at a little bit of higher level.
Yeah, exactly.
Iowa they run the ball a lot. They have hogs up front. I mean, I'll tell you, Tyler Linderbaum, the center,
but he's the only guy. And then they're replacing everybody else. And it wasn't.
I know. I'm just saying he's very good. I love him. You should watch his film if you haven't.
You're still gonna have to.
He beat Tristan Wirfs in wrestling.
Okay. I don't care. It's wrestling. This is football. This is not wrestling. But I don't know. For them to replace 4 guys up front on a unit that needs to be really good for them, they can't be competitive without it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just
I
not
don't
going to
love
do it at a
that
high level. They'll
situation.
be solid. I mean, I
They're
think they'll
also
lose to Iowa
losing
State.
2 NFL players at defensive line, so that really hurts. And there's no chance they're going to replace them because they don't recruit. They don't bring in guys like Golson and his running mates. So that's just not what they do. But
all right, so Michigan, we talked about Indiana, we talked about Minnesota, PJ Fleck, really disappointing year. I don't know what that was like one of the weirder storylines in college football in a season of super weird things. Indiana or Minnesota being that bad. Like, I don't think they returned almost everyone up front. I remember doing my write up on them last year, and they returned almost everyone up front. Tanner Morgan, Rashad Bateman.
But they had some
Mohamed
injuries
Ibrahim.
up front, didn't they?
They did.
Like
They
were shuffling a little bit for a lot of it.
And then they had some good guys on defense, too. And it's just like they just sucked. Like, they were horrible. I mean, the offense, like, I don't know what happened. Tanner Morgan's back, and is his first name Mohamed Ibrahim? Do you know? Mohamed Ibrahim?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so look that up for me. I want to make sure I'm giving this guy due credit because he's about to be a first-team All-American. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely
Mohamed?
there. I'm looking.
I mean, come on, guy. You got to be faster on the book.
Just talk.
Mohamed Ibrahim he's Ibrahim. He's very good. Tanner Morgan's good. We didn't see much out of him last year. He loses Rashad Bateman, obviously. I don't see Minnesota really getting much better. And so they're at plus 1,800. That's probably fair.
That's I'm with you. You were right. It is Mohamed Ibrahim, but I'm with you. Like they're losing Bateman. I do like that Chris Autman-Bell. I think
he was good. He was super good too. Yeah.
The problem is all they're gonna have. I think that offensive line is going to come in and be a joke again. I don't see how they're better.
Last year,
Still have the same.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see how Minnesota got better from last year.
I also think their defense was as bad of a defense I've ever seen. Like they just look like a D3D, like just super slow. Nobody was making plays, and like they did lose a little bit on that part the year before when they had Winfield and St. Just and some other.
Yeah,
really dependable players. So they did have to replace guys. Their linebacker play just didn't seem like it was close to being at the level that you would need, and defensive line couldn't rush the passer.
Okay, so in fairness, I haven't really watched much film on Minnesota. I haven't gotten to them on my write-up yet. They just didn't seem that athletic on defense, if I recall.
Well, because they couldn't, when you watch Talia Tagovailoa just run, nobody could catch him. He's just running around, and nobody can catch him. They're giving up big plays.
All right, move on. Let's move on. They're not that good of a team. Nebraska, I mean, Scott Frost has been in the news with the Luke McCaffrey incident.
I don't think he has it.
He seems to just kind of, I think he's a little old school and similar to somebody maybe like Jim Harbaugh is just struggling to like get the best out of players in like the 21st century. Like I feel like he runs a program that you ran in like the 80s when he played football or the 90s when he played football. And I feel like he's like struggling to run a football program at a big, like he was good at UCF, but now like you're at Nebraska, you got to answer to like donors, you got to answer the AD, you got to answer to a lot of people. I feel like he just doesn't really seem to have a control of that team. I talked to a Nebraska fan. He says you just got to give him some time. I don't know how much more time he has. I don't see them being that great this year. They lost that wide receiver, Waddell Robinson, which hurt them bad. I don't see them being that great. Northwestern, gutted. I don't see them really competing that well. Maryland's interesting because I feel like Talia can ball a little bit. I just don't know if he has anybody around him who can ball. So kind of need people around you who can ball. Can't do like a one-man thing in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I don't know. Maryland, you're right though. He is like almost makes me want to think like they can maybe make a push to be not like win, but like
we're just talking about like can you make some money off these guys as like overlooked.
And like can they like cover like a 14-point spread against Michigan or something, or like one of the middling team.
The thing is like all these teams like to round out like Maryland, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois. Like I do not want to put my money on those teams. Like Michigan State thinks they figured out their quarterback situation, getting in like Anthony Rousseau, who was like average at Temple.
No, he wasn't good.
You think he's gonna come in and solve that? Come on. Purdue, they have some good players individually. George Karlaftis, and David Bell at the wide receiver position.
But I'm not a Purdue guy.
Yeah, no, they're and then Illinois.
I don't love that.
Is Brandon Peters still at Illinois? Is he back for with this eligibility year? I can't really keep track. Can you look that up?
He is back. That is.
Well, so, he's just like he's a good recruit, but like, yeah, dude, I'm telling you,
he's actually good. He's actually been pretty good for them. In fairness, they're just not good anywhere else. But I will say they are bringing in Brett Bielema, and he has had moments of being a very good college coach.
Yeah, but you just have to give. You have to give.
I don't know that you need to give a ton of time because
you said that about Mike Leach, but like you can't just like come in and like be like, boom, snap your fingers, culture change, schemes changed, and it works out year one. This is not how that works,
dude. It's not that they're gonna win the title. Like I'm not saying that, but they definitely could be a better team than you think they are, and that's definitely true. Acting like college coaches mean nothing is the stupidest thing you like think.
I don't act well. That's so unfair of you to say that. I don't act like they mean nothing.
You don't necessarily need the time. Like it helps, and you might think he could build, but he could come in and make an immediate.
Nope.
He can come in and make an immediate. Well, you're just wrong. You don't.
All right.
I think that's incorrect.
Nebraska's going to Illinois, going to Champaign week 0. So this will be a feature game that week for us because there's no other good games. Are you laying with them?
Oh, I'd be super if I got Illinois as like a dog. Yeah, I'd be super comfortable doing.
They're plus 280 dog. They're 9.5 points.
I'd be wildly
comfortable with that. At home against Nebraska, you take that?
I'd be comfortable with that.
I look forward to breaking this game down to you in the fall because I will get.
You don't appreciate how much college coaches matter, and also Lovie Smith did recruit at that program better than you think. He just wasn't a very good coach. So I don't know. We'll see, but like Jake Hanson's a really good player. Brandon Peters has played some really good football.
Wait, that Hanson kid's back?
Yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, Spec2's all right. All right. Yeah, no, we'll see. We'll talk about it. Though we'll have plenty of the summer to talk about that. I'm not an Illinois guy. I was never impressed when I watched them. But yeah,
I actually don't think they played so disgusting against Wisconsin, and that was like Wisconsin as good as they ever were. So
they were as good as they ever were because Illinois sucks. But yeah,
again, but like we're not talking about Michigan; it's Nebraska.
This is a different Illinois team with Brett Bielema. Everybody, hey, get locked in.
You don't get the game. You've never watched, obviously. Oh, college coach is meaningless. Just give him time to build. Like he doesn't need time to build. He'll come in there and he'll give him a jump, just like PJ Fleck did. Lest you forget, PJ Fleck took that team from being a gutter squad.
Yeah, that was quick too,
and made them solid.
And then they sucked.
College football is a different animal. If you get those kids playing, which Brett Bielema can, he did give Arkansas a little jump, and then it's just impossible to. Yeah. It's impossible. Like they expect them to come in and like compete against Bama, and
it's
fired them.
Some of those
was a massive mistake. Yeah. So I don't know.
Getting slightly off topic before we close out the show. That's being a tier 2 team in the SEC is got to be the hard. Like if I was like a coach, an up and coming coach, like I would really try not to take those jobs. They do pay you well, but like you go to like South Carolina, you go to like Arkansas, you go to like Vanderbilt is as bad as it gets. Like it's so hard to like turn the tide. I think who might do it. Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I think he might be able to do it.
I mean, he's Brett Bielema 2.0, but
that's actually might be fair. But
in fairness, though, Pittman is a Southern guy, so
but the thing is, like 6-6 doesn't cut it. Like 6-6 doesn't cut it for like the fan base, the donors, the alum. So it's like how like they have these lofty expectations of like you to come into a program like Arkansas, who's like notorious of like 3-9 the last couple of years, and they're all right. We'll give you 3 years to become 9-3.
Yeah. They saw like Bobby Petrino, and they're like, "All right, you need to go be what Bobby Petrino was for the years they had like McFadden and were like legit for like 3 years.
Yeah, it's just
But that's just like, I don't know.
ask.
Bielema made that team pretty tough, honestly. If you think about like they played teams tough, they didn't win a whole lot of games, but
then you go to a school like
he did flip that around pretty quick, and they started paying guys. So I do like Brett Bielema coming in.
Yeah, it's different at tier 2 team in like the Big 10 or Big 12 where there's not as many like at Illinois. There's no expectation. The expectations are in the basement. Just like, can you just not be embarrassing? Can you not embarrass the school? And so like you go 6-6, you'll have a job for 20 years. Like Kirk Ferentz, I mean, well, he's been that's unfair for him, but like they just the expectations at a school like Illinois, or like look at like Matt Campbell at Iowa State, or maybe like Texas Tech maybe might be different, but like it's just the expectations aren't that high. It's a little bit easier of a job. It's not as risky of a job. Anyways, that's a little off topic, but sometimes you just be chopping it up. That's our overview of the Big Ten. I want you guys to feel free to comment. Like, do you think we missed out on a team, or do you think we're low or too high on a team? We actually really appreciate what you guys have been doing, sending us all these questions and comments. Keep that up. Reminder to check out the website for the actual write-ups. If you guys want to read, check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts. And as usual, like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate that. We want to reach out to more people. So thank you all for following along. We will be back with the Pac-12 later this week or weekend. We might throw in a bonus episode here or there because that's kind of what we like to do. Me and Dill are like talking about different topics we want to talk about for you guys. So 12-team college football playoffs is on the horizon for sure. So stay tuned. That'll be a heated one between Dill and I. But thanks y'all for listening to another episode. Talk to you guys later. Peace.